Good morning, everybody.
Is that a win?
I think that's who it
Let's
is.
call this meeting of the New York State Housing Finance Agency and the New York State Affordable Housing Corporation, the State of New York Mortgage Agency to order. Turn things over to the Secretary. I'll take the requisite legal steps, again, to formally open our meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I note that Todd Sherman, representing Robert Mujica, Director of Division of the Budget, and Chris Curtis, representing Commissioner Jerry Boone from Taxation and Finance, are participating in the meeting via video conference from the New York State Division of the Budget Conference Center at the Capitol Building Room, 131 in Albany. You guys can hear us?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Bethaida Gonzalez is participating from the Syracuse Regional Office at 620 Erie Boulevard, Suite 312. Bethaida, can you hear us?
Yes.
And Steve Weiss is participating from the Buffalo Regional Office. Steve?
Yes, good morning.
Okay. I'm going to ask for a motion and a second to call to order the June 9th, 2016 meetings of HFA, AHC, and Sunny May. A motion for HFA and AHC, please.
So moved.
Second?
Good. Motion for Sunny May. Motion for
So
Sunny
moved.
May. Second.
So moved.
Good,
Second.
Thank you. As items are presented to each board throughout today's meetings, these motions and seconds will be used unless specific items call for a different vote or unless any board member or director wishes to report his or her vote differently.
Let me turn things over to President Rubin for his president's report.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this morning's Mortgage Insurance Committee meeting, 8 projects were at this morning's Mortgage Insurance Committee meeting. 8 projects were approved for insurance. These approvals represent 577 affordable units located in New York City, Onondaga, and Erie counties. Coming up at HFA, spoiler alert, we'll be seeking your approval on 6 items. These projects are located in New York City, Westchester, Livingston, and Steuben counties and represent 1,700 affordable housing units. Earlier, both the Audit and Governance Committees of HFA and AHC met. And coming up in just a few minutes, don't change your channel, you will review several items, including the independent auditor's report and the second quarter bond sale report, among others. Later, AHC, you will be review awards being sought totaling $1.7 million. A few other items, just to catch everybody up on what's been going on here and outside if you're relevant to us since the last board meeting. Let's see, I'm trying to order this in, I can do alphabetical. There's a zombie thing that goes last. That's a Z. All right. We last Thursday was Shinny's annual conference, the Supportive Housing Network of New York, which is the state's, excuse me, 1,500 or so people who own, operate, and manage supportive housing around the state, all for homeless people with special needs, formerly homeless special needs, had their annual meeting here in New York City, and I was pleased to be able to announce Governor Cuomo's first phase of the governor's implementation of his homelessness action plan. We announced basically 4 things at the conference. The issuance of the RFP for services and contracts, service and operating contracts for the next round of supportive housing beds, units, which is critically important ahead of whatever capital commitments are going to be made to build those units. So that was a big deal. The community really was waiting for that eagerly, and that's now out on the street, and we're waiting for responses. The formation of the Governor's Interagency Council on Homelessness, which I'm going to co-chair with Fran Barrett, who works for the governor. And that will be an interagency council formed of, I don't know, I can't remember at this point how many, but commissioners of all the agencies that are involved in the issue of homelessness and special needs. So OMH, OTDA, OASIS, DOCS, others, and then a group of about 10 or 11 leaders of nonprofit organizations, social service agencies statewide, who manage and develop these institutions. And we actually have our first organizational meeting later today, so we're going to figure out what the agenda is for that community, that council. It's we're going to be there for 24 months. We'll put out a series of reports, make recommendations, and hopefully actually do some concrete things to make sure that the state is doing everything it can to attack this problem. So I think that's a good thing. We announced that 500 capacity for 500 beds on state-owned or state-managed sites here in New York City are available for the New York City Department of Homeless Services to use for safe havens, which is the most sort of the emergency level shelter beds for people who are coming off the street, the chronic homeless, who don't otherwise fit in the regular shelter system. It's the first time that the state's ever made that kind of commitment of actual space. We're not contracting directly. We're not in the business of running shelters, but we're just making available. We actually, the state invested a little bit of capital to bring those places up to speed, and then we're going to turn them over to the city for their use, which was terrific. We've spent a lot of time with the city in advance, and they were very eager to have that capacity, so that was good. And then we issued a report detailing the results of a comprehensive inspection that was undertaken back in the winter by a multi-agency group of all of the shelters, certified and uncertified throughout the state, about 900 and some odd shelters, cluster sites, etc. The results were, I would say, disheartening if you care about how the homeless people in this state survive from day to day. But the good news is, first of all, that we did it, and second of all, that the city also, this New York City at least, also undertook its own inspection, and I think they will tell you that they've remedied a fair number of those problems on the fly, but the capital needs of the shelter system are really the underlying problem here, and that has not been fixed. So it was a good day, good announcement, and I think was well received. On Monday, we were able to announce in Middletown, a really terrific program that Sherry Eccles and Marion and their teams put together to use $22 million of settlement money from a couple of years ago to renovate zombie properties and assist low and middle income homeowners with major repairs and renovations. It was interesting because it's first of all, it's a terrific program. It's a Sunny Mae program, and it effectively enables us to make Sunny Mae loans, slightly altered slightly expanded group of Sunny Mae loans to an expanded pool of potential homeowners, and also invest in the renovation and rehabilitation of the homes that were foreclosed and are being put back into circulation through those mortgages, working with local partners in 6 different areas throughout the state where the foreclosure problem was most intense. And what was interesting is we really seem to have hit a nerve with this. You can tell the zombie issue is a big deal now. For a relatively modest sized program, we've gotten a tremendous amount of press attention for this announcement. And a lot of calls from legislators who wanted to know why their communities were not also included in this round, which enabled me to talk to them about why our housing plan is so important. But I don't know, it was interesting. I guess it's, cynically I would say it's because this is a problem that affects people not in the sort of traditional places where affordable housing is viewed as a big priority. But anyway, use what you're given. A little bit ago, we announced our last round of Unified Funding Awards, which is terrific. Construction and rehab of nearly 2,000 units in pretty much every region of the state. It was 31, I think, awards of our federal tax credits and other forms of subsidy from the agency. So a lot of terrific programs, very high priorities for local governments. So that was great. And then finally, with the legislative session winding down.
Coming to an end.
Coming to an end. We have been spending, we is really pretty much everybody, one form or another, been spending a tremendous amount of time with the legislature, with individual members, advocating for and sort of negotiating the MOU that would release to us the use of the $2 billion for the housing plan that was appropriated to the agency back in the April budget. It's a tough slog. There's, I don't think dealing with the legislature right now is not so easy, and I think people are eager to get out. There's a lot of issues swimming around that get sucked into big issues like this. But we will continue to push as hard as we can. And the good news is that the MOU requirement is not tied to the end of session. It's not tied to anything else. It's not time limited. So if we don't get it done by the middle of next week, which is when the session is supposed to end,
it probably won't end before next Friday.
Next Friday.
There you can talk about the possibility of Saturday.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, no, that's right.
That's rough. Anyway, but whatever happens, we will obviously continue to do this, and then if we don't get it done this time, we will get it done. Hopefully, we'll continue to engage deeply with them over the course of the summer, into the fall, into the winter, whatever it takes to get this done. Obviously, we would all like to see it done sooner rather than later because the money is certainly needed. But I don't think anybody's going to be able to say that this agency didn't do everything possible to try to get that done. And one thing I would say is that I've spent a lot of time, and our intergov team has done a great job at this, by the way, in Albany with individual legislators, all the leadership, multiple times. I think it's been good for the agency for us to do that, and the feedback, regardless of what happens on the MOU, the feedback has been that this agency is held in very high esteem for the work that it does around the state. Why that doesn't translate into a strong desire to see more such projects done, and therefore a desire to get this MOU done come hell or high water is not clear to me. But that's life in reality. Everybody knows. I mean, these projects are incredibly important. And I'm not talking about New York City. I'm talking outside of New York City. Every legislator had examples of projects that they felt were just great. They've had terrific experiences. They get great feedback from local groups. They've got projects they desperately want to get done. Again, that sort of leads to an obvious conversation. But anyway, so everybody I think should be proud of the work that they have been doing. I think this is a good profile raiser for us. And the summer is going to be a time for us to spend a lot more time doing that kind of thing as well. We have a whole raft of events that we want to do over the summer, and we'll keep it going.
Well, no bitterness in your voice.
No, it's been good. I'm tired, as you know,
Yeah.
but it has been. I mean, in that sense, it's a good thing to be able to do, and it's been.
No, the agency's profile has been raised.
Absolutely.
And that is a very good thing with the individual members of the legislature.
No question.
And that will come back, that will benefit
Yeah.
this agency and this entity in the future. So
Absolutely.
it really is good work.
Yep.
All right.
That's what I got.
All right, Alex, going to report on committee actions.
Oh,
All right.
I should say one other thing. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
Sure.
Just a very quick note. Adam Schuman is usually sitting up here with us.
Oh.
Schuman, the tall guy.
Oh, him, yeah, okay.
And he was spoiler alert, was the agency's general counsel, and served us well for
2 weeks.
For 2 weeks, for a year. I think he really did a tremendous amount of work to sort of reorganize all the lawyers in the agency a little differently so that they're functioning as one legal department as opposed to multiple, which I think was the case before. Adam has gone over to work for the governor on, let's call it special assignment. The good news for us, and there hasn't been any public announcement about this, although there's no secret about it, so I'll let the governor deal with that. The good news for us is that Adam, shortly after he got here, brought on as his deputy a woman named Linda Manley, who was his co-clerk actually in the federal judiciary years and years ago, and then worked in private practice, and then was the legal director? Okay, legal director for Lawyers Alliance of New York, which is the premier, it's a group in New York City that does a lot of its own legal work and then organizes the pro bono work that, I don't know, it's gotta be 20,000 lawyers or something do? I don't know.
1,400.
1,400? It just seems like there's 20,000 lawyers.
Okay.
All right,
There's only 1,400 in the city of New York.
that can't possibly be
No,
it.
that was the math I volunteered for.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say. 'cause
There's actually a million,
14 million
1,400
lawyers
of
in New
them,
York
yeah,
City.
exactly, yeah. But only 1,400 wanted to do pro bono. That they organize all of that work. I remember from when I was a young lawyer 25 years ago, that was the group that did it, and it's a phenomenal organization. Linda was beloved by the nonprofit community. She came over here to be Adam's deputy, and she is now our acting general counsel, and there's zero question that she's going to be our general counsel as soon as the acting, I don't know what happens, but anyway, we'll just shed
As soon
that.
as she stops acting?
Yeah, exactly. Practicing,
Putting on
yeah.
television.
She's a great, it is seamless transition. Linda's fantastic. When she came over here, when it was announced that she was our deputy, we got so many calls from people in the nonprofit world saying, "Oh, this is fantastic." Adam didn't get any of those. So I think we've really actually sort of upgraded. That's all I got.
Okay.
Committee actions.
Okay, so I'm going to report on the Mortgage Insurance Committee action that took place earlier today. The committee adopted its minutes. It recommended approval of mortgage insurance on a project at 111 East 172nd Street, on a project at Hannock Corona Senior Residences, approved 100% mortgage insurance for a JP Morgan permanent first mortgage loan, approved mortgage insurance on an LIIF mortgage loan for the Lee Goodwin Supportive Housing Project, approved 100% mortgage insurance on a Citibank loan for Undercliff Avenue, recommended approval of 100% mortgage insurance on a CPC permanent first mortgage loan for the Dietz Building in Syracuse, recommended approval of 100% mortgage insurance on a CPC loan in Buffalo, approved 100% mortgage insurance for a loan for Camillus Mills in Onondaga County, and approved an increase in a loan that had been previously made for CPC for 346 Bergen Street in Kings County. Earlier this morning, the audit committee of HFA and AHC met and adopted minutes. Both committees reviewed and approved the independent auditor's report relating to the single audit. That'll come up before the board also. Both committees reviewed the contract with Ernst & Young. Both committees received an educational presentation on the financial statements, and both committees approved the AHC financials, and that will also be taken up at the board meeting. The governance committee for HFA met and adopted minutes and reviewed the Greystone servicing contract.
Okay, we'll now present items shared by HFA, AHC, and SUNY May. Alex will record the approval of the minutes.
Thank you. The minutes of the meetings of HFA, AHC, and SUNY May held on May 12, 2016 shall be deemed approved, absent corrections from members and directors.
Item number 2. All right, item 2, resolution approving a panel of underwriters. I'm recusing myself on this issue, on this item, and I'm gonna go get some coffee, so I'll be back.
Yep. We'll get you.
Let me know.
Jeopardy music? Wait.
I like your paste on names.
It's temporary, so you can just click it. All right. As we move, so we're going to do item 2. I'm going to make this, present this resolution approving a panel of underwriters for the agencies for SUNY May and HFA. Ms. Zucker will discuss.
Good morning, everybody. Periodically, the agency does a formal review of its underwriting team to ensure we are properly informed of the capabilities of the Wall Street firms who seek to serve us as managing underwriters. As I assume the board knows, we use this panel of underwriting firms to either lead our offerings when we come to market or serve as co-managers. And while we undertake this formal process periodically, we are doing a constant and continuous review of the performance of firms as we bring deals to market, as we have ongoing conversations about strategies, what's happening in the market, and program ideas. Just as an example, because you don't necessarily see this stuff that often, we are about to bring one of the largest open reso deals in a couple months in June. As you saw in our May agenda and some of the transactions that we're bringing to the board this week, today, we're aggregating a pool of pretty considerable size. And so we're gonna undertake an investor roadshow, which we're going to record early next week, and also have a retail presentation to brokers later next week in advance of our sale. Back to this process though. In the formal process, we issued an RFP in March of this year, did extensive outreach as detailed in the memo, and received 37 responses from firms interested in serving us as either a senior manager or a co-manager. As the case with many procurements, the agency aggregated a team of staff to review these proposals. That committee reviewed, scored, and met to discuss the proposals several times and to agree on teams that we're bringing to the board for its approval today. When we think about who should be on what team, we're very cognizant of a couple of things. One for us is making sure that we have a range of different expertise on the panel. The agency issues bonds for single-family mortgage loans. We issue a variety of types of bonds for our multifamily projects, and from time to time, the state calls on us to either issue tobacco bonds, or as we did a number of years ago, student loan bonds. So we want to make sure that we have a very broad panel of people and firms who can help distribute those bonds, but also help structure them as we're coming to market, and who have expertise in any one of those subject areas. The other thing that we care very much about is distribution capabilities. And since New York has the tax structure that it does for individuals, we are very enamored of retail participation in our bond issues, because we do get the best price typically from retail participation. So we also care very much, both for our senior managers and our co-managers, that they have access to retail distribution networks. And the other thing that we think about is meeting the governor's directive in terms of MBE, WBE, and now service disabled vets. So you'll see in the panels that we're recommending a number of those priorities are being addressed. The panel that we're recommending, do I need to read this, Alex, or can I direct them to the memo?
You can direct them to the
Is included, although we don't have page numbers, in the last page of the memo. And we're asking the HFA and Sunny May board for its approval to move forward with this. Are there any questions?
May I ask a question?
Of course.
It's B in Syracuse. So, and I'll probably say it might be a silly question, but I need to ask it anyway, because we've had conversations before in the sense that we don't have really good lender partners in our community. So when you say that these firms are committed to New York State, are they also committed equally across the regions, right? Or are we not checking at that level of commitment?
We don't necessarily, in this procurement, review whether or not they're active lenders in different markets. We're more looking at what their stature is within the state as an investment banking firm.
Okay.
I mean, we
I'm always
care
looking for
whether-
ways to leverage, because
Okay.
I've learned over my years that you have to kind of work people at multiple levels within their structures, right? To get them to behave properly.
Absolutely. But we've
Which is
seen-
what precipitated,
Okay.
I
Did you
would
have a-
guess, that the candidates for this kind of work, maybe I'm maybe wrong, but are not always going to be the same institutions that have that sort of local presence to do lending regionally and areas outside New York City. Do you agree with that or no?
Yes and no,
Yes
some
and no.
do, but I think, yeah,
Okay.
some do, some don't, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have the capacity
Right.
to serve this function.
This function, yeah, that's right.
For
It's better
us. And I think, although it would be great to call up one of the larger institutions and say, hey, to open a branch someplace for us because we need lending coverage. I don't know that we have that level of leverage over some of those major institutions to do that.
okay, I was just curious, trying to learn how all of this works. Thank you.
Really good question. Thank you.
And I just want to note that we're going to make a correction to the resolution that we're adopting. One of the members of the senior managing panel that is an MBE is not listed as an MBE, Siebert. And we will correct that.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to ask for a motion, so we're going to move to the item. Now before the HFA and Sunny May Board for approval is a resolution of HFA and Sunny May approving a panel of underwriting firms, assuming the first and seconds previously entered for HFA and Sunny May. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried and the resolution is adopted. I'm going to just get the chair.
These were all listed as consent items, so I thought we would just go back to the project.
Yep. Item 3, resolution approving AHC annual investment report for the period ending March 31st, 2016. The following 3 items are consent items. There will be no discussion of these items unless board members request. Item 3, a resolution 1 approving the AHC annual investment report for the period ending March 31st, 2016. And 2, reviewing second quarterly investment reports for HFA and SUNY May for the period ending April 30th, 2016.
So now before the 3 boards is a resolution of Sunny May, HFA, and AHC approving reports of investments. Assuming the first and seconds previously entered for the agencies, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried and the resolution adopted.
Item 4, resolution reviewing and approving independent auditor's report relating to the audit of the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, single audit, HFA.
Now before the HFA board is a resolution of HFA reviewing and approving the audited schedule of expenditures and federal awards, single audit report for fiscal year ended October 31, 2015, assuming the first and seconds previously entered for HFA. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried, resolution adopted.
Item 5, resolution reviewing and approving the second quarter bond sale report for the period ending April 30th, 2016.
Now before the HFA and Sunny May board is a resolution of Sunny May and HFA adopting the bond sale report for the period ending April 30th, 2016. Assuming the first and seconds previously entered for HFA and Sunny May, all in favor please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is
Aye.
carried, resolution adopted.
The next 3 items on the agenda are information items. There'll be no discussion on these 3 items unless the board members or directors so request. Item 6, review of the agency's quarterly procurement report for the period ending April 30th, 2015. Item 7, current agency procurements in the lobbying restricted period. I note that item 7 is a new monthly report that will be included in the board packages every month to ensure that board members are aware of current agency procurements in the restricted periods. This is in response to a discussion that occurred at our most recent educational session. Item 8, review of second quarterly report on the financial status of existing hedges, swaps. And now we'll move on to the SUNY May action items. Item 9, resolution approving 100% mortgage insurance on a $16,250,000 CPC permanent first mortgage loan for the Dietz Building, Syracuse, Onondaga County. This item was voted and was discussed and voted on earlier today's Mortgage Insurance Committee meeting. It's now for a vote in the State Mortgage Agency Board. There'll be no discussion unless the directors so request. We'll now move on to the vote. Alex?
Now before the Sunny May board for approval is a resolution of Sunny May approving 100% mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for a CPC permanent first mortgage loan for the Dietz Building in Syracuse, Onondaga County. Assuming the first and seconds previously entered for Sunny May, all in favor please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The
Aye.
motion is carried. Motion is carried. The resolution adopted.
Item 10, a resolution approving 100% mortgage insurance on an $8,750,000 CPC permanent first mortgage loan for the lofts at 400 Buffalo, Erie County. this item is discussed. Okay, we're now in discussion. Move on to the vote. Go, Alex.
Now before the board for approval is a resolution of Sunny May approving 100% mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for a CPC permanent first mortgage loan for the lofts at 400 Buffalo, Erie County, assuming the first and seconds previously entered for Sunny May. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried, the resolution adopted.
Item 11, resolution approving 100% mortgage insurance on a $7,310,000 J.P. Morgan permanent first mortgage loan for Hannock Corona Senior Residences, Corona, Queens County. This item was discussed earlier. Move on to the vote.
Yep, now before the board is a resolution of Sunny May approving 100% mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for a J.P. Morgan permanent first mortgage loan for Hannock Corona Senior Residences, Corona, Queens County, assuming the first and seconds previously entered for Sunny May. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried, the resolution adopted.
Item 12, resolution approving 100% mortgage insurance on a $20,130,000 HFA permanent first mortgage loan for 111 East 172nd Street, Bronx, Bronx County.
Now before the board for approval is a resolution of Sunny May approving mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for an HFA permanent first mortgage loan for 111 East 172nd Street, Bronx, Bronx County, assuming the first and seconds previously entered for Sunny May. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried, resolution adopted.
The next item is a consent item, and there'll be no discussion unless board members so request. Item 13, approval of contract with Radian Guarantee for mortgaging, servicing, and reinsurance services.
Now before the board for approval is a resolution of Sunny May reviewing and approving a contract with Radian Guarantee. Assuming the first and seconds previously entered for Sunny May, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
There being no further items for the State Mortgage Agency Board, I'm going to ask for a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting.
Assuming the first and
So
seconds
moved.
previously entered for the Sunny May Board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried, the meeting is adjourned. Our next board meeting is scheduled for Thursday, July 14th at 8:30 in the morning.
Okay, we're going to move on to the HFA items. At this point, Alex will call to order the Finance Committee meeting of HFA, which will be held jointly with HFA and AHC board meetings.
Okay, I will ask for a motion and a second to call to order the June 9th, 2016 Finance Committee meeting of HFA. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? As items are presented to the committee throughout today's meetings, these motions and seconds will be used unless specific items call for a different vote. Item 1, the minutes of the 54th meeting of the HFA committee will be deemed approved, absent corrections from members and directors.
Fine. Item 14, resolutions authorizing financing approval in an amount not to exceed $29,900,000 for 111 East 172nd Street, Bronx, Bronx County. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. So some context for this project. This is another integrated supportive housing project in New York City with a total development cost of $53 million. It's part of our Medicaid redesign team initiative. And we're asking for authorization of financing for 111 East 172nd Street in the Bronx. This will develop 126 units, all of which will be affordable to households over 60% of AMI. 60 of the units will be reserved for individuals with mental illness. This is seeking $29.9 million of tax-exempt debt, plus an annual allocation of $1.9 million of low-income housing tax credits. There was previously an award of MRT from Housing Trust Fund Corporation in March for HCR resources, and the project's leveraging substantially in a way we've become used to, but will soon change. HPD is providing subsidy, and that's a very common thing in a project like this. Office of Mental Health, though, is also providing debt service help to the tune of $15 million. And going forward, we anticipate that that won't be a model that will continue, but instead there'll be additional resources from HCR. OMH is also funding the services and operating project, or services and operating costs. This project is new construction. It's 12-story building. It will be seeking LEED certification, so it's hoping to accomplish a substantial savings in its energy usage. The developer's community access. The investor is Richmond. Insurance will be provided by Sunny May. And the services are also being provided by community access, who has substantial experience in this area. Any questions?
Any questions?
So this is both supportive housing and family housing, two-bedroom units?
Exactly. That's become almost exclusively the model that we've been developing. And in fact, in our new RFP, it's really required. There's substantial thinking in the industry to provide people with disabilities an environment in which they're interacting with the general population and are not segregated. So,
Terrific
it's a
idea.
yeah.
Do you have a sense of how it's working so far?
So far I haven't heard anything that says it's not working. There are management challenges. What's interesting is there are nonprofit groups who are very used to operating 100% supportive housing project, and there are affordable housing developers who are very used to developing an all affordable project. And it is different management skills, and I think both industries are learning. But I think it's been done with great success, and I think, interestingly, this integrated model has been a way to do very interesting community development projects and even housing opportunity projects.
Any questions?
Seems like a perfect project.
Okay, so now before the committee and board are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and seconds previously entered for the finance committee, all in favor please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried, the resolution adopted. Assuming the first and seconds previously entered for the HFA board, all in favor please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried, resolution adopted.
I'll be recusing myself from the next item, so Alex will introduce the item. And also, since we have 3 HFA projects on the agenda, as to which Vice Chairman Weiss will be recusing himself, we're going to deviate slightly from the agenda listing and take up the 3 items consecutively. So we'll proceed with items 15, 16, and then skip to 18 on your agenda.
All right, so,
You're introducing the next item.
we're trying to make things as complicated as possible.
Try and follow that. Good luck.
So item 15 is the resolution authorizing financing approval in an amount not to exceed $108 million for Marine Terrace in Queens County.
Thank you. I want to take a moment before I address Marine Terrace and just speak to Mrs. Gonzalez's question earlier, because I remembered actually as we saw some national lenders pull back from markets in New York State, that we did try to leverage our other relationships with them to get them to stay at the table. And in one instance, we were able to extend their participation, but in both instances, ultimately, they did end up leaving the market. So it was not a silly question at all. And we do try when we can to keep people interested.
Thank you.
Thank you. My brain's now working quickly this morning. Okay, so with that,
You're not alone.
my official purpose here is to ask the board for approval to provide up to $108 million of tax-exempt bonds and the attendant 4% credits of approximately $6.3 million annually to fund Marine Terrace in Astoria, Queens. Marine Terrace currently contains 444 units, and through this financing will also provide funds to construct 53 new units and resident service space on areas within the complex that are currently being devoted either to parking or storage. There's been a slight tweak to the project description from what's included in the board memo. Instead of 3 new buildings on the site, developer's only going to construct 2 new buildings. I do have a site plan, and I apologize to folks who are not in New York City. I don't know if anyone don't want to see this. There are some zoning issues with the third building, so what we have now is 2 new buildings, one of which will contain 25,500 square feet and contain 32 units of housing. The other building will contain 21,140 square feet, 21 units of housing, and the service space that was previously going to be contained in a standalone building. That service space will contain laundry facilities, which are not currently on site, fitness facility, community room, computer lab, nurse's office, and storage. What will now be 497 units contains 20 studios, 33 one-bedrooms, 415 two-bedrooms. That's really, I just want to take note of that, that's a significant amount of two-bedroom units. We don't always see that when we're constructing new affordable housing, so we do like to do what we can to preserve family units and also 9 three-bedroom units. The 442 existing residential units, that's the 444 minus the supers unit, are subject of a Section 8 contract, which will be extended for 20 years at closing. Also, as vacancies arise in the existing units, there will be a 20% set aside, 20% preference for homeless families to move into those vacancies. The 53 units will have a preference for veterans during the lease-up period. The financing will provide approximately $49 million. Again, this is a slight tweak to what's in the board memo. Actually, it's not a tweak, it's what's in there now, sorry about that. $49 million in hard costs, or nearly $100,000 a unit. And that will cover the cost of replacing or repairing the roofs, the flooring, the windows, the facades, providing for new kitchens with new energy efficient appliances, cabinets, countertops, new bathrooms and fixtures there. It will also provide funds to convert at least 22 of the units into accessible units. The mortgage is going to be secured by a credit enhancement facility provided by Fannie Mae. It will be financed through the agency's open resolution. The developer of the project is Related Companies. Related is acquiring the project from an unrelated third party, and Related Management will be the managing agent for the project. Related is also contracting with Jericho Project, and Jericho Project will provide services on site to both the new residents and existing residents. Are there any questions?
That's great. Okay. So just, I wanted to mention, just as you're expanding these projects, Joyce and Nestor have like this equipment here that they're able to, they're looking at the project.
Oh,
the street.
can you see?
Yeah.
And so you can see, I mean, it's an old school or an
Yeah,
apartment
it's
brick
beautiful.
building, the story, it's really
Right
gonna
on the
make a
water there.
difference, right on the
They know more
water.
about the project than we do.
It's largely now inhabited by seniors. I mean, this really gives us the ability to enhance what's going on at the site. I neglected to mention, there's also gonna be extensive work at the site level in terms of landscaping, places for folks to exercise outdoors. So it's a real step up in what's happening in the development. We're really excited about it.
All right, so now before the committee and board are resolutions adopted that were transmitted. Assuming the first and second is previously entered for the committee, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motions are carried and the resolution adopted with the recusal of Chairman Thompson. Assuming, go ahead.
I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
I forgot, right, obviously. I had buried under my paper something that I did want to mention on this project. Many years ago, and it really hasn't come up in conversation with the current board, The board had instituted a policy to limit the size of any balloon risk on our affordable transactions to no more than 15% of the principal amount of the first mortgage loan at permanent conversion.
Okay.
And the idea behind that was really to limit the event risk of what would happen with the project when you go to refinance it at that point, especially if the agency had subsidy in the deal, and typically the subsidy loan wouldn't be fully paid off at that point. And it's a policy that we've held to consistently. As we're starting to see an influx of some of these larger preservation deals in New York City specifically that we hadn't seen before, we're doing more and more developments that will have either Fannie or Freddie credit enhancement on a permanent level, as opposed to Sunny Mae, which had been our typical permanent credit enhancer. And the Fannie and Freddie model is more to have a 35-year amortization term and a 30-year maturity. And that 30-year maturity has become increasingly important as we partner with New York City, which can have no longer than a 30-year regulatory agreement. So what we've typically done without that HBD regulatory agreement is push out from 30 to about 33 years, which gets us under the 15% balloon. Now that we're partnering with HBD and have that regulatory agreement constraint, we can't extend the term of our mortgage to the point to get us under the 15% balloon. So, as is the case in Marine Terrace and in some of the other transactions we're considering today, we're going to ask for a waiver of the balloon policy. So I want to specifically ask for it in Marine Terrace. And we want to come back to the board for a fuller conversation about where we're going to set that balloon risk on a going forward basis, understanding the constraints and limitations of our partners on a going forward basis. So sorry to interrupt the approval.
First of all, are there any questions about that? So the extra 3 years makes that, ticks it under the 15 because you have extra amortization, so you just get the principals.
If you can get to 33 years, you're under the 15%. With a 30, 35, you're more at a 25% to 30% balloon.
So what is it we're being asked to waive exactly? Is there, when you say a board policy?
It was a board policy that was approved in 2000, I want to say 2008 or 9. Or we can just say that we're approving it with the understanding that this will have a balloon in excess of 15%.
I certainly have no problem with that. I guess I'm curious what are there board policies that we need to sort of, I don't know what those are.
That's the only one
That
that I'm
didn't come
aware
with
of.
that's like the nuclear football. It
It
didn't get handed over to me. So one of the other board
It's
policies.
the only one that I'm aware of that affects the underwriting of our
I think over the
projects.
years, there have been some, but we're talking over 10 years ago, and I don't think any of them are any longer effective.
Okay.
I think it would be probably better if we just have the board act, as of today, rather than continue a policy that I don't think a lot of people are aware of.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so Marion, is this only for Marine Terrace or?
No, it's for
So
others
you'll
as well.
alert us for the other one?
Mhm.
Okay.
Or it's really contained
no.
within the project description. Okay,
Sorry, Marion, it's Steve. Is there a written version of this policy that you can circulate? And how many other deals are affected by this?
there are 4 other deals that are affected by this.
All partnering with the city?
Yes, with the city, and they have Fannie or Freddie credit enhancement. We would continue otherwise to underwrite the Sunny Mae Mortgage Insurance Fund deals with full amortization, as we have previously.
And Steve, we'll
So,
try
and-
to find the old policy and send it to the board.
Very good, thank you. Thanks.
Okay, so we're gonna start the approval again here, so,
All right, I'll interrupt you.
Now before the committee and board are resolutions to be adopted whether transmitted in connection with the item along with the new resolution waiving the requirement for these 4 projects. For this project as well as the other 3 projects coming before the board today. Assuming the first and seconds previously entered for the committee, all in favor please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried, resolution adopted with the recusal of Chairman Thompson. Assuming the first and seconds previously entered for HFA, all in favor please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried and the resolution adopted with the recusal of Chairman Thompson and Vice Chairman Weiss.
Item 16, resolutions authorizing financing approval in an amount not to exceed $9,100,000 for Hornell Community Apartments, Steuben County.
Hi, we're actually quite excited about this project. The governor earlier this year, as part of the State of the State, announced an initiative to really partner with HUD and public housing authorities to help them preserve their portfolio, but also have a larger partnership for the restructuring of public housing authorities so that they can create sustainable homes within our communities. And housing authorities have a substantial portfolio of projects upstate. So this was a substantial policy change for the state, and this represents the first project that will be happening under that program. It's Hornell Community Apartments in Hornell and Steuben County, the cutting edge community for housing in the state, as it turns out here, which is quite neat. This is a $17 million project. It is comprised of 147 revenue-generating units. We're all very familiar with the RAD program, most commonly the RAD 2 program that we're partnering with most of our Mitchell-Lama portfolio. These public housing authority projects are participating in RAD 1, which is a similar program where all these units will benefit from project-based vouchers. The requirements and the rent obligations, for example, are a little bit different, but the concept is generally the same. These 147 units represent a wide range of bedroom sizes to help serve the community, and all but 3 of the units will be affordable to households with incomes under 60% of AMI. We're asking for $9 million in fixed rate tax-exempt bonds and an annual allocation of $410,000 of low-income housing tax credits. We have a new program that was part of our open window RFP specifically for the public housing preservation projects called the Public Housing Preservation Program, and we'll be seeking through HDFC, where those funds are funded through an allocation of $4.7 million in capital later this month. The project will benefit from a 30-year payment in lieu of taxes agreement. Hornell Housing Authority is the developer. Enterprise Community Partners is the investor, and Sunny Mae will be providing insurance. The scale of the rehab is a moderate rehab of about $51,000 per unit. It's going to increase handicap accessibility. It's going to update kitchens and baths. There'll be new windows and roof replacement. 36 of the studio apartments are going to be converted into 1-bedroom apartments to help with marketability. Do you have any questions about the program or the project?
So there was a bunch of information in the back of the board packet on this that went into a lot more detail. Is there anything in there we should be paying attention to?
That's interesting. You know, I'm not sure we intended necessarily to provide all that. This is all the scoring and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was really left over from the credit committee. We provide the scoring for the subsidy. This is
Okay.
more of an HTFC concern.
Okay.
It's interesting to look at, but
Yeah, I just didn't know that there was anything.
this
that
is
needed-
how we score the subordinate funding, because it's a competitive process.
Okay.
And I think it just maintained its attachment because
Oh,
it's
okay.
part of the credit committee.
Just curious, thank you.
So you get this peek behind the curtain.
A comforting peek.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So I just want to note that the members' folders and the folks participating via video have a revised omnibus resolution in connection with this item. Just there, the version that had been sent, I think, approved the subsidy loan, and so we removed that from the.
Right, that subsidy loan will be approved through HTFC.
Correct. So we changed that in the resolution, and folks have it. So now before the committee and the board are resolutions to be adopted, transmitted in connection with this item as revised by the correction. Assuming the first and seconds previously entered for the committee, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried, resolution adopted. Assuming the first and seconds previously entered for HFA, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried, resolution adopted with the recusal of Vice Chairman Weiss, and I note that Joyce Miller has had to leave early, and we are still in quorum.
Item 18, resolutions authorizing financial approval in amount not to exceed $100 million for new settlement apartments, Bronx, New York County.
This is the skip, yeah, we skipped to the new seven.
Okay,
Item 18.
all right.
Did we throw you off
You
somehow?
look
there?
puzzled,
You have the
No,
deer in the headlights look.
I was trying to do the math about whether this was one that the chairman needed to recuse himself from, but
No, we don't.
Tell
he
you what.
doesn't. You don't.
Okay.
You don't. I'm asking the board for approval to finance new
Shoot, I
settlement
didn't know.
apartments through the issuance of up to $100 million of tax-exempt bonds and the allocation of approximately $4 million of annual low-income housing tax credits. New settlement is an existing portfolio of 14 buildings in the Mount Eden section of the Bronx that contains 893 units of housing originally constructed in the 1920s. This is, in fact, one of the largest, though not the largest, number of units that we financed in one project.
How many units again?
893 and 14 buildings, 7 of which are high-rise, 7 of which are low-rise. The projects were originally taken and run by the city and were part of then Mayor Koch's in-run program where, do you remember?
Yeah.
Developed projects were transferred to nonprofits and renovated. This particular portfolio was transferred to settlement housing and renovated in 1987, a little less than 30 years ago. Settlement housing is a pretty well-known not-for-profit organization in New York City, which was created in 1969 to both create and preserve affordable housing. They also do an extensive amount of programming at all of their sites to provide resident services and also services to the greater community. For this particular development, in addition to the agency's expected 87 million of bonds, the 176 million of total development costs will be funded by a $22 million HPD loan, the raise of nearly $50 million through the sale of the low-income housing tax credits at $1.20 per credit, plus solar credits, a $67 million seller note, a sponsor loan, and deferred developer fee. Through this refinancing settlement, we'll have the funds to make the needed repairs and significant improvements to the properties, which include facade work, upgrades to the elevator, hot water heaters, windows, lighting, interior improvements, and most notably, and I can't believe Joyce has left, the
Green roof.
largest solar installation on an affordable housing development, and we want to take note of that so we can invite the board to the ribbon cutting to see that.
That'd be great. That would be great.
The hard costs,
Send
total,
her an email.
yeah, the hard costs total nearly $51,000 per unit. The 893 units contain 33 studios, 269 one-bedrooms, and like Marine Terrace, a very significant amount of 2 bedrooms, 494 in this case, and 94 3-bedrooms. So this portfolio really provides a significant amount of affordable family housing. The development will also be subject to a 50-year regulatory agreement from HPD, which requires 10% of the units be set aside for households under 30% of AMI, 15% under 50. 50% at 60 or under, and 25% of the units for families up to 85% of AMI. The mortgage will be structured through back-to-back structure. This is something we've done from time to time with Citi, where Citi takes the loan on its books, and then at the point that the project has stabilized after the renovation period, Citi will buy open reso bonds, which the mortgage of which will then be secured by Fannie Mae. The developer is Settlement Housing. The manager is Grenadier. Are there any questions?
Just one quick question on the pro forma. I just want to make sure I'm reading this right. It appears that starting in year 11, the cash flow goes negative, and I'm wondering if you can tell us about that.
This is something that would be not unusual given the underwriting assumptions, which are much more conservative than what we expect reality to be.
Okay.
So we have expenses trending at 3%, where we have income trending up at 2%. And there does come a point in the underwriting where that can cross over, but we have from history not seen this to actually be the case.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it just is a question, because I don't know that I've seen this before, where what we're being asked to approve sort of has a red flag like this. And it's great that we underwrite conservatively, but if we have the standards and it gets us to this formula, I wonder whether we need to look at that for this project. Because it makes me a little uncomfortable to be approving a project that we're projecting will go into, a negative cash flow, and at least, obviously, hopefully things will go well with the project, but all we have is what we're projecting. So I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
I think it's a good point. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
We do see in projects like this, we're projecting a 5% vacancy rate, which is something that you wouldn't expect to happen, but it is how we underwrite projects. If it wasn't something that concerned us, I can see whether we can be even more conservative. So that it doesn't show it going negative during the period of time. Less conservative.
Less conservative.
Less concerned.
Less conservative.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm not sure I would want less conservative assumptions. We would just
Or next
structure
condition
it,
or something.
yeah, we would just structure it perhaps with less debt.
Okay.
All right, now before the committee and the board are resolutions that are to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with the item. Assuming the first and seconds previously entered for the committee, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried, resolution adopted. Assuming the first and seconds previously entered for the HFA board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried and the resolution is adopted with the recusal of Vice Chairman Weiss.
Item 17, resolution approving an amendment to a previously approved financing of $55,000,000 to $62,500,000 for Buena Vista Apartments, City of Yonkers, Westchester County.
We're here asking the board for an amendment to its prior approval to Buena Vista because we were able to achieve something we weren't sure was going to be possible, which was a waiver from the payment standard on the RAD 2 program from 110% of fair market rents to 120% of fair market rents. And this is letting us increase the mortgage loan amount for Buena Vista and reduce the agency's subsidy that had been previously approved.
Questions?
The uses stay the same, it's just the mix of the subsidy goes.
Yes,
Okay,
the uses are the same.
thanks.
Okay, now before the committee and board are resolutions adopted that were transmitted in connection with the item. Assuming the first and seconds previously entered for the committee, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Motion carried, resolution adopted. Assuming the first and seconds previously entered for the HFA board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
carried. Resolution adopted.
Item 19, resolution authorizing financing for Lakeville Estates Manufactured Home Park, Town of Geneseo, Livingston County.
I'd like to ask the members' approval to finance the acquisition and cooperative conversion of the Lakeville Estates Manufactured Home Park in the town of Geneseo, Livingston County. This is a much simpler transaction than the one we brought to the members last month. This is about as simple a manufactured home park transaction as you could have. It's the acquisition of a 50-pad park. There also are 2 additional pads that the town has not allowed the current owner to put into place, but has told us they'll allow the residents to put into service. The park is in good physical condition. We can set this up with a larger first mortgage with a financing partner, Rock USA, so they'll finance about 25% of it at 5.5%. We'll finance about 75% at 1.5% to get a blended rate the residents can afford. It's a senior park. It's all double-wide units with 2-car garages and driveways. We can show you some pictures, Mr. Chairman. This thing looks like a nice AHC housing development in the suburbs.
It's lovely.
It's got,
It's really lovely.
they have peak roofs, they've got 2-car garages. It's just really a really nice senior community. But even with that, the homes themselves are worth between $30,000 and $50,000, according to the appraisal. The average income in these parks is less than 80, this again is a nice park, top tier. The average income is less than 80% of the AMI, so you're talking about senior,
I was gonna say, what's the AMI?
about $45,000. So you're looking at senior couples making, $30,000 or so, or less than that because it's adjusted for family size. And,
Social Security?
yeah, a little more. Again, this is a slightly richer park than the last one, but that just means instead of half the people being on disability, you have maybe 20%. It's a very nice park, and it will allow these residents to take more control of their lives. We may get a few extra units in it down the road.
All right.
Questions?
Now before the board, are resolutions to be adopted, transmitted in connection with the item. Assuming the first and second is previously entered for the HFA board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried, resolution adopted.
It's an interesting mix of projects.
The next item is a consent item. There'll be no discussion unless board members so request. Item 20, authorization to enter into an MOU with Natural Heritage Trust.
And I just want to note that in the members' folders and for the folks attending via video, we inadvertently omitted to attach the resolution for this item, and it is now before you. So now before the board is a resolution of HFA authorizing a contract with the Natural Heritage Trust. Assuming the first and second is previously entered for HFA, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried, resolution adopted.
Okay, now we move to the AHC items. Item 21, a resolution authorizing an award of grant funds for certain projects located outside the city of New York. This is a consent item. There'll be no discussion unless board members so request. Alex.
Before the AHC board is a resolution authorizing awards of grant funds for certain projects located outside the city of New York, assuming the first and second is previously entered for HFA. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried, resolution adopted.
Let's see. Item 22, resolution approving AHC's March 31st, 2016 audited financial statements.
And I think this one, this was, a presentation was made before the audit committee, detailed presentation for the board on this. So I don't think we need a presentation. So now before the board is a resolution of AHC reviewing and approving the audited financial statements for fiscal year 2015-2016. Assuming the first and second is previously entered for AHC board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried, resolution adopted.
Item 23, approval of Public Authorities Information System, that's Paris, annual report filing for AHC.
And so this is simply the filing that we do under the Public Authorities Law for all of our agencies at the end of their fiscal year. And that filing is included in the members' folders, and we will be filing it within the next few days in the Paris system. Now before is that report, a resolution of AHC accepting the filing under the Public Authorities Reporting Information System. Assuming the first and second is previously entered for AHC board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried,
Aye.
the resolution adopted.
There being no further items for HFA Finance and Program Committee and the HFA and AHC boards, I'm gonna ask for motions and seconds to adjourn the meeting.
Assuming the first and seconds previously entered for HFA Finance and Program, all in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye. Motion is carried, resolution, committee meeting is adjourned. Assuming the first and seconds previously entered for HFA and AHC, all in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye. Motion carried, meetings are adjourned. Our next board meeting is scheduled for Thursday, July 14th at 8:30 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.